The massive alien warship floated silently in the darkness of space, its hull gleaming under the distant light of the sun. Inside the command center, Admiral Vexcala stood tall on 6 powerful legs, his forearms moving across the control panels with practiced ease. His large black eyes stared at the small blue planet spinning slowly on the holographic display before him. Another weak world, he muttered to himself, his voice carrying the confidence of someone who had done this many times before. The planet was called Earth, and it was home to creatures called humans. According to his ship's computers, these humans had not even learned to travel between stars yet. They were nothing more than insects compared to the mighty Kethver Empire, his second in command. Nixvara approached with quick steps. Her silver uniform bore the marks of countless victories across the galaxy. "Admiral, we are ready to send the message," she said, her voice sharp and efficient. "Good. Begin the transmission," Vexcala replied, never taking his eyes off the planet. He had conquered 47 worlds using the same simple method. First, he would demand surrender. Then, when they refused, he would demonstrate the power of the planet killer weapon by destroying a moon or asteroid. After that, every species begged for mercy and accepted slavery rather than death. The message went out across all of Earth's communication systems. It was translated into every human language. "People of Earth, you will submit to Kethver rule immediately, or your world will be completely destroyed. You have 12 hours to surrender." Vexcala settled back in his command chair and waited. Soon, the desperate messages would begin. The humans would offer him their gold, their technology, their strongest warriors. They would cry and beg and promise anything to save their pathetic lives. It was always the same. Hours passed. The bridge was quiet except for the soft humming of the ship's engines. Vexcala began to feel annoyed. Usually, the replies came within minutes. These humans were taking too long. Sir Nixvara called out, checking her instruments. "We are receiving a transmission from the planet." Finally, Vexcala said, straightening in his chair. "Put it on the main screen." The holographic display changed to show the face of a human male. He appeared to be in his 50s, with graying hair and calm, steady eyes. He wore a simple blue uniform, with no decorations or medals. Behind him, Vexcala could see other humans, working at computer stations. "I am Director Hanzal of the Global Defense Coalition," the human said, his voice clear and strong. "We have received your message." Vexcala leaned forward, expecting to hear the usual pleas for mercy. Instead, Hansel continued speaking in the same calm tone. "Here is our answer. No, we will not surrender. We will not submit. If you want our world, you will have to come and take it."
Admirals.
Forearms froze over his controls. In 300 years of conquest, no species had ever given such a direct refusal. They always tried to negotiate, to buy time, to find some way to save themselves. The transmission continued, and Vexcala watched in growing amazement as the scene changed to show cities all across Earth. Instead of panic and chaos, he saw something impossible: celebration. Millions of humans filled the streets, cheering and raising their fists in the air. They held signs written in dozens of different languages, but they all said the same thing: Earth stands strong. In one city, humans danced in the streets while military vehicles moved past them. In another, families gathered on rooftops to watch the alien ship in the sky, not in fear, but in defiance. Children drew pictures of Earth defeating the invaders. Old people sat in chairs and shook their fists at the stars. "This is impossible," Nixvara whispered, staring at the display. "They should be terrified. They should be running and hiding." But the humans were not hiding. They were preparing. The transmission showed factories working at full speed, producing weapons and equipment. It showed underground bunkers filled with supplies. Showed millions of people moving with purpose and determination, not panic. Director Hansel appeared on the screen again. "We know what you did to the other worlds," he said. "We know about your planet killer weapon. We know. You expect us to surrender in fear." He paused, and for the first time, he smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "But you made one mistake," Hansel continued. "You assumed we were like the others. You assumed we would break when faced with death. But humans have one quality that your computers cannot measure. We are too stubborn to die. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in complete silence. Vexcala stared at the blank screen, his mind trying to process what he had just seen. In his entire career, he had never encountered a species that responded to the threat of extinction. With celebration, Admiral Nixvera said quietly, "What are your orders?" Vexcala turned his large black eyes toward the planet-killer weapon, the massive device that had destroyed countless worlds. "Prepare the weapon," he said slowly. "If these humans want to die as heroes, then we will give them what they want." But deep in his mind, doubt began to grow. These humans were different. They were not acting like prey. They were acting like predators who had been waiting for a fight. The massive energy beam shot down from the alien, warship like a spear of pure light. It struck Earth's atmosphere with tremendous force, creating a brilliant flash that could be seen from space. The planet-killer weapon had begun its deadly work. Admiral Vexcala watched from his command chair as the beam tore through the protective layer of gases surrounding Earth. This was the moment he had been waiting for, the sight of their atmosphere. Burning away always broke the spirit of any species foolish enough to resist the Kethfer Empire. "Energy levels are perfect, Admiral," reported Torgan, the weapons specialist. His three eyes focused on the readouts as numbers scrolled across his screen. "The atmosphere is breaking down exactly as it should. We are destroying 17% of their protective gases already." Vexcala nodded, feeling satisfied. The planet killer was working perfectly. Soon the air would become too thin to breathe. The protective layer that kept deadly space radiation away from the planet would disappear. Within 6 hours, Earth would be nothing but a dead rock floating in space. "All their communication systems are failing too," Torgan continued. "The energy beam is creating massive electrical storms across their entire planet. They cannot talk to each other anymore." This was always the best part for Vexcala. When a species could no longer communicate, fear spread like wildfire. Families could not find each other. Governments could not coordinate their responses. Military forces could not work together. The isolation and terror always led to quick surrender. He waited for the first desperate messages to come through the static. Usually within the first hour, broken transmissions would begin reaching his ship. Leaders would beg for mercy. Parents would plead for their children's lives. Military commanders would offer to surrender their weapons. But 1 hour passed, and his communications station remained silent. "Where are their surrender messages?" Vexcala asked, beginning to feel annoyed. They should be begging for mercy by now. "No transmissions detected, Admiral," replied the communications. "Officer, only static and interference." Vexcala frowned. Perhaps the humans were too proud to surrender immediately. Some species held out for 2 or 3 hours before their courage finally broke. He would wait a little longer. The second hour passed. Still nothing. "Give me a status report on the weapon," Vexcala commanded, his voice sharper than before. Torgan checked his instruments carefully. His expression suddenly changed from confidence to confusion. "Admiral, this is very strange. The atmospheric destruction is slowing down." "What do you mean slowing down?" "The rate of damage is decreasing. We destroyed 17% of their atmosphere in the first hour, but only 8% in the second hour. It should be getting faster, not slower." Vexcala stood up from his chair and walked to the weapons station. He looked at the readings himself, not believing what he was hearing. Da. The planet killer had never failed before. It had destroyed the atmospheres of dozens of worlds with perfect efficiency. "Check the weapon systems," he ordered. "Something must be wrong with our equipment." Torgan ran a complete diagnostic on the planet killer. Every system showed green lights. The weapon was working perfectly. Energy beam was at full power. There were no mechanical failures. "All systems are functioning normally, Admiral," Torgan reported. "The weapon is working exactly as it should. Then why is the destruction slowing down?" "I do not know, sir. It is as if something is fighting against our weapon. Something is replacing the atmosphere as fast as we destroy it." Vexcala stared at the tactical display showing Earth. The planet still looked blue and green. still covered with swirling white clouds. After 2 hours of bombardment with their most powerful weapon, it looked almost unchanged. Sir called. Out Nixvara, from the sensor station, I am detecting unusual activity on the planet's surface. What kind of activity? Massive industrial operations, Admiral. There are huge machines working beneath the surface. They appear to be pumping something into the atmosphere. Vexcala felt a chill run down his spine. Pumping what? Air, sir. They are pumping replacement air into their atmosphere. The humans are repairing the damage as fast as we can create it. The bridge fell silent. Every alien officer stared at their instruments in disbelief. The planet killer was supposed to be unstoppable. It had never failed to destroy a world's atmosphere within 6 hours. How is this possible? Vexcala asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Unknown, Admiral? But the sensor readings are clear. The humans have built thousands of these machines. Across their entire planet, they're all working together to replace their atmosphere. Vexcala looked at the planet again, yet underestimated these humans. They were not just stubborn, they were prepared. While other species spent their final hours in panic and despair, the humans had been busy working. Increase power to the planet killer, he ordered. Maximum energy output. Sir, the weapon is already at full power. We cannot increase it further. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Vexcala felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. Not fear of death, but fear of failure. The planet killer was their ultimate weapon, and these primitive humans were defeating it with machines and determination. Sir Torgan said quietly, atmospheric degradation has now stopped completely. The humans are maintaining their atmosphere at normal levels. Vexcala stared at Earth, realizing that everything he thought he knew about warfare was wrong. These humans were not victims. They were opponents, miles beneath the surface of Earth, in tunnels that stretched deeper than any natural cave. Director. Hansel walked through the most secret place on the planet. The underground complex was enormous, bigger than entire cities. Bright lights lined the walls, and the air hummed with the sound of thousands of machines working day and night. This was not a place built in panic when the aliens arrived. This was the result of 50 years of careful planning and preparation. Every corridor, every room, every machine had been designed and built by people who understood one simple truth. The universe was a dangerous place, and Earth needed to be ready for anything. Hansel passed through a vast chamber filled with green plants growing in neat rows. The hydroponic gardens stretched as far as he could see, tended by robots and human workers in clean white uniforms. These gardens could feed millions of people for years without needing sunlight or soil from the surface. The plants are growing? Perfectly, Director, said one of the workers, a young woman named Sujin. Even if the aliens destroy everything on the surface, we can keep our people fed down here. Hansel nodded and continued walking. The next chamber contained manufacturing facilities where robots assembled everything from clothing to medical equipment. Massive 3D printers worked constantly, creating spare parts and tools. Left to chance, in the command center, dozens of technicians sat at computer stations monitoring the global situation. Giant screens showed the status of similar underground complexes all around the world. From Australia to North America, from Europe to Asia, humanity had built a hidden network of survival shelters. A report from the Australian sector called out Engineer Bawara, her fingers dancing across her keyboard. Their geothermal power plants are working perfectly. They're using the heat from deep underground to power their atmospheric processors. Hansel studied the global map on the main screen. Green dots showed the locations of atmospheric processors all around the world. These machines were pumping fresh air into the atmosphere as fast as the alien weapon could destroy it. The volcanic activity is actually helping us, Biora continued. The natural gases coming from the volcanoes are hiding our artificial air injection. The aliens probably think it is just a normal geological process. What about the North American grid? Hansel asked. Technician Han Wu looked up from his station. All systems are running smoothly, Director. The Yellowstone installation is particularly effective. We are using the supervolcano's natural vents to distribute replacement atmosphere across the entire continent. Hansel smiled. The Yellowstone complex had been one of the most challenging projects. Building a facility inside an active supervolcano had required new engineering techniques and materials that could withstand incredible heat and pressure. But now it was working perfectly, hidden beneath one of the most dangerous places on Earth. Aliens cannot understand what we are doing, Hien Wu added. They probably think their weapon is causing natural volcanic reactions. They do not realize we are using the volcano to fight back. The truth was that humanity had been preparing for this day since the first nuclear weapons were invented. Every time scientists warned about possible disasters. Every time a movie showed the world ending. Every time experts talked about asteroid impacts or supervolcano eruptions. People had listened and learned. The governments of the world had secretly worked together for decades. While the public saw normal cities and farms on the surface, underneath an entire second civilization had been built. It's not just in one country, but everywhere. Every major nation had contributed technology, resources, and workers to create this hidden network. Director called out Communications Officer Minho. We are receiving reports from complexes around the world. All major population centers have successfully moved their people underground. The casualty reports are much lower than we expected. Hansel felt a surge of pride. The evacuation plans had worked. When the alien ultimatum came, millions of people had calmly walked to hidden entrances in subway stations, parking garages, and office buildings. They had practiced these drills for years, but most people thought they were just emergency exercises. How are the atmospheric processors performing? Hansel asked. Better than expected, replied Biora. We are not just replacing the air the aliens are destroying. We are actually improving it. The air quality is now better than it has been in over 100 years. This was typical of human engineering. When faced with a problem, they did not just solve it. They made it better than it was before. The atmospheric processors were not just pumping out basic air. They were creating a perfect mixture of gases, removing pollution, and even adding beneficial elements. The aliens chose the wrong species to attack, said Hien Wu with a grin. They thought we would panic and surrender. Instead, we are using their attack to make our planet healthier. Above them, the alien weapon continued to blast Earth's atmosphere. But for every cubic meter of air it destroyed, the hidden processors pumped 3 cubic meters back. The planet was not just surviving the attack, it was winning. Hansel looked around the command center at his team of engineers, technicians, and scientists. These people represented the best of humanity, the ability to plan ahead, to work together, and to never give up. The aliens had superior technology, but they had underestimated the power of human determination and preparation. Keep monitoring all systems, Hansel ordered. This is just the beginning. When the aliens realize their weapon is failing, they will try something else. We need to be ready. The underground complex continued its work, hidden from the alien sensors, protecting the future of the human race. High above Earth, thousands of small objects drifted silently through space. To the alien sensors, they looked like harmless debris, old satellites, broken pieces of spacecraft, scattered chunks of metal that humans had left in orbit over the decades. The Kethfer fleet paid no attention to these worthless scraps, floating around their mighty warships. But the aliens were wrong. These were not random pieces of junk. They were weapons. Carefully disguised and positioned by the most desperate and brave humans who had ever lived in the underground command center. Director Hansel stared at the communication screen. The face looking back at him belonged to Captain Dongwu, a former Air Force pilot who had volunteered for the most dangerous mission in human history. Dongwu was strapped inside what had once been a weather satellite, now packed with explosives and guided by a simple computer system. Phoenix Squadron is ready, Director, Dongwu said, his voice calm, despite knowing he would not survive the next hour. We can see the alien ships clearly now. They are positioned exactly where our scientists predicted they would be. Exal felt his heart heavy with sadness and pride. These brave volunteers had given up their lives to give humanity a chance to fight back. Remember, Captain, you do not need to destroy their ships completely. Just damage them enough so they cannot stay in orbit around our planet. I understand, sir. We've studied their formation for hours. They think they are safe up there, far from our weapons. They do not know that we have turned our space junk into guided missiles. Around the solar system, similar conversations were happening. Pilot Minesio sat inside a converted asteroid mining platform, checking her improvised weapon systems one last time. The machine had been designed to drill into asteroids and extract valuable minerals. Now it was loaded with chunks of metal and aimed at the heart of an alien battleship. "This is Mining Platform 7, Minesio reported. "All systems are green. Target locked. Ready to begin attack run." Engineer Junho piloted a repurposed Mars supply rocket that had been scheduled to deliver food and equipment to the human colony on Mars. Instead, now carried a cargo bay full of steel rods and high explosives. Supply Rocket 12 reporting. "In," he said. "I have a clear path to the alien command ship." Technician Yuna was strapped into what had been a communication satellite just 12 hours earlier. Her job had been to repair and maintain satellites in orbit. Now she was guiding her converted satellite toward the alien fleet, carrying enough explosives to cripple a warship. "Communication satellite ready for final approach," she whispered, saying a quiet prayer for her family below. These volunteers were not professional soldiers. They were ordinary people who had extraordinary courage. Minesio had been a mining engineer, Junho had been a cargo pilot, Yuna had been a satellite repair technician, Dongwoo had been retired from the Air Force for 5 years, working as a flight instructor. But when their planet was threatened, they had stepped forward without hesitation. They had climbed into hastily converted machines that were never designed for combat. Knowing that their mission was a one-way trip, their weapons were not sophisticated laser beams or advanced missiles. They were simple, kinetic weapons, chunks of metal that would hit their targets at tremendous speed. The laws of physics would do the rest. When a piece of steel traveling at thousands of miles per hour hit a spacecraft, the results were devastating. "All units, this is Phoenix Leader," Captain Dongwoo's voice crackled over the communications network. "We have trained for this moment. We have planned every detail. The aliens think they are hunting helpless prey, but they are about to learn that humans know how to bite back." The alien fleet continued to focus all their attention on the failing planet killer weapon. Admiral Vexcala and his crew were so confused by their weapon's failure that they had not bothered to scan for threats in the space around them. They assumed that a species without faster-than-light travel could not possibly threaten ships in orbit. "Remember," Dongwoo continued, "we are not just fighting for our own lives. We are fighting for every human who has ever lived, and every human who will be born in the future. We are fighting for the right to exist in this universe without bowing to bullies." One by one, the volunteers reported their readiness. Mining platforms, supply rockets, weather satellites, communication relays, and even old space station modules had all been converted into weapons. Each one was guided by a human volunteer who had accepted death in order to give their species a chance to survive. "This is Phoenix Leader," Dongwoo announced, beginning final attack run. "All units, follow me in.
Ow.
Let us show these aliens what happens when they threaten Earth."
Ow.
The improvised human fleet began to move. Slowly at first, then with increasing speed, the converted satellites and spacecraft accelerated toward the alien warships. From a distance, they still looked like harmless debris. But as they got closer, their true nature became clear. The largest coordinated attack in human history was about to begin. Not with advanced technology or superior firepower, but with courage, determination, and the simple physics of objects in motion. The aliens were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous weapon in the universe was a human being who refused to surrender. The bridge of the alien flagship looked like a battlefield. Smoke filled the air, and broken pieces of equipment lay scattered across the floor. Sparks shot from damaged computers, and the lights flickered on and off. The proud warship that had destroyed dozens of worlds was now barely able to stay in one piece. Admiral Vexcala stood in the middle of the chaos, staring at the main screen in complete disbelief. Around Earth, the wreckage of his mighty fleet floated like broken toys. Ships that had been the terror of the galaxy were now nothing more than twisted metal and debris. The planet killer. The weapon that had never failed hung motionless in space. It was not destroyed, but it was completely powerless. Worse yet, Small human spacecraft swarmed around it like insects, cutting pieces from its hull and taking everything they could carry. "Give me a damage report," Vexcala said, his voice tired and defeated. Sub-Commander Nyx Vera looked up from her damaged console, her uniform torn and stained with alien blood. 17 ships completely destroyed, Admiral. 12 more or so. Badly damaged, they cannot fight or fly properly. Vexcala felt his heart sink. He had started this battle with 37 warships, the pride of the Kethver Empire. Now most of them were gone, destroyed by primitive humans using weapons made from scrap metal and old satellites. "How many of our people are dead?" he asked. "Over 3,000, sir. The humans hit us with kinetic weapons, pieces of metal moving at incredible speed. Our energy shields were designed to stop laser beams and plasma bolts, not chunks of asteroid or traveling at thousands of miles per hour." Vexcala's mandibles clicked together, a sign of stress in his species. "And the humans? How many did they lose?" "According to our sensors, approximately 200 volunteers died in the attack. They called themselves Phoenix Squadron. One piloted a converted satellite or spacecraft directly into our ships." The Admiral stared at the numbers in amazement. 200 humans had destroyed a fleet of 37 advanced warships. 200 volunteers had defeated 3,000. Trained alien warriors using nothing but improvised weapons and courage. Admiral Nyx Vera continued, "The humans are not finished. Look at the main screen." Vexcala turned to see something that made his blood run cold. Rising from Earth's surface were hundreds of new objects. But these were not improvised weapons made from space junk. These were real spacecraft, sleek and powerful, built using a combination of human engineering and salvaged alien technology. "They're building ships," Nyx Vera said, her voice filled with fear. "They are using pieces from our destroyed fleet to create their own warships." The tactical display showed the impossible truth. In the few hours since the battle ended, the humans had already begun construction of hybrid vessels. They were combining their own technology with captured alien systems to create something entirely new. "How is this possible?" Vexcala asked. "They should be celebrating their victory, not building more weapons." "Sir, I believe we misunderstood these humans from the beginning. They are not like other species. When we attack them, they do not just defend themselves. They learn, they adapt, they become stronger." A new transmission came from Earth's surface. Director Hansel appeared on the screen, but he was no longer in the underground bunker. He stood in what appeared to be a massive construction facility in orbit around Earth. Behind him, human workers and robots assembled new spacecraft using both human and alien technology. Admiral Vexcala Hansel said, his voice calm and professional, "I believe it is time for you to leave our solar system." Vexcala found his voice. "What do you want from us, human?" "Nothing. We simply want to be left alone." "But since you have been so generous with your technology, we thought we should return the favor." Saul gestured to the construction facility. Behind him, as you can see, we are no longer a species confined to one planet. Thanks to your attack, we now have the knowledge and materials to build our own starships. We will remember this lesson. The transmission continued, showing other construction sites around Earth. The humans were not just repairing the damage from the alien attack. They were using it as an opportunity to leap forward in technology by decades. "Consider this a message for your empire," Hansel said. "Earth is now a protected world. Any species that tries to conquer us will discover what you have learned today. We do not just survive. We adapt. We do not just defend. We improve, and we never forget." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Scala realized that his attack had not weakened humanity. It had made them stronger and more dangerous than ever before. Admiral Nyx Vera said quietly, "We are receiving orders from the Empire. We are to retreat immediately and mark this system as forbidden in all navigation databases." Vexcala nodded slowly. "Signal all remaining ships. We leave this system now." As the damaged alien fleet limped away from Earth, their sensors detected something that would haunt them forever. The first human starship, built from the wreckage of their own vessels, was already beginning its journey to the outer edges of the solar system. On Earth, the humans continued their work. They had learned that the universe was full of enemies, but they had also learned that they were strong enough to face them. The species that had refused to surrender had become the species that would never be conquered again. The aliens had come to destroy Earth, but instead, they had created something far more dangerous. Humans with starships and the knowledge that they could win.